Well, hi friends. It's Marianne Goldweber, spiritual teacher, professional medium, and owner of a Village Personal and Spiritual Development Center, coming you live tonight for my video podcast called Marianne's House. Well, we're actually in Marianne's car, and I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to show up in a couple of places and partake of the energy, which is our topic tonight. So normally I wait for you guys to get on, but I just wanted to touch base because we have a lot of new things going on, and I just want to make sure that we all stay connected, and it's important. Yeah, it's important to share energy. It was interesting. I had a client today who came to the space, and she'd never been to my space before, and when she walked in, and she just took this deep breath, and she goes, "God, it's so peaceful here." Right. So peaceful here. And, this is why it's so important to get out of our own environment. I'm a flaming empath, okay? And people misuse that word. It's the ability to feel energy, okay? And some people are just more heightened than others, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and that's another teaching that I offer, in what I do. So being someone who's sensitive to energies, we forget that we are an energy, okay? And this is why, not only do I feel energies, I can also move or manipulate energy with my energy, okay? So, we're very conscious of how energies affect us, but we're not always as concerned or aware of how our energy affects others. So when I'm low and I'm not inspired or I'm not in a good place, that gives off an energy, and it feels very protective, and it comes off as kind of like, don't come near me kind of energy. So when I'm in that place, which is not very often, I take space and I recharge by myself in my own space. I sit with things and do all the things that nurture me physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But what I wanted to talk about tonight was more about how important it is to expose ourselves to other energies, because it's a reciprocal thing, just like the universe. The universe operates on what we call reciprocality, which means it's a constant flow. It's a constant flow, there and back, there and back, there and back. And everything is in this flow except people, okay? Season cycle, everything, it goes from like winter, spring, summer, fall. Everything has cycles and seasons, and people just we run very contrary to natural cycles. And this is what I'm helping people, through, is as this world is awakening, we're getting back to this authenticity. We're getting back to peeling off all these things that have taught us to be separate from ourselves, separate from each other, separate from our communities. And, because it benefited from that separateness. So over the last, since COVID, okay, when we were forced into isolation, people were not being exposed to other energies besides their own during that time. So when it was time to come back out, a lot of the places and things that existed before that didn't exist any longer. I can't tell you how many businesses closed, places that I used to go, or places where, we could meet up and sit down and have a bite or just have a convo, so again, a lot of things changed while we were in that isolation. Now people got used to their own energy, okay? But isolation is one of the worst things for a human being, because when we don't have any other shared energies or perspectives, we tend to think that all we know is what we know, and what we feel is just, anything outside that is bad. So when people are coming out now, they're not, they've been deconditioned to be in interdependent flows of energy. And so because they're feeling so much, they instantly, put up their guard and just think it's bad, okay? Because they're feeling something other than what they're familiar with, So we got to kind of come out and desensitize ourselves to being out here and engaging with humanity. people are also getting spoon-fed all this crap on the social media. So they think that interacting or liking something or commenting on something is participating. But we're not participating in a way that it's reciprocal. Okay, it's isolating, and it's still not enough. The thing that people are most thirsty for, and I meet a lot of people, guys, in sessions and parties and in the world, okay, is they're just thirsty for someone to notice them, for conversation, for being noticed, and that's as vital. That shared energy is just as vital as food, okay? So even though I might do random acts of kindness or do those things, I don't do that because I'm giving somebody something. Okay, that's the bridge that gets me to connect sometimes. So if I'm, for instance, giving someone who's unhoused or looking like they're some kind of way, that thing, whatever I'm offering them, is the bridge to connect. It's the bridge to connect. And I was posting about that today. If you guys get a chance to notice my post and read the whole thing, I know it was very lengthy, but this was heavy on my heart over the last couple of days. And, in fact, I always joke about this, but Jared, my son, has me on GPS, okay? And so once in a while he'll text me and go, "Mom, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Well, your phone hasn't left the house in like a week." And I said, "Well, I work from home. So I do have interaction with people. I'm not just sitting there on my couch, wishing somebody come visit me, But I do. I go to the corner store. I'm outside. I engage with clients when they come. And, so I don't have to necessarily leave my environment in order to get that. But I am a very social creature. Even though I'm kind of awkward, alone, and quirky, I really love just being in other energies. So I love just sitting on a patio somewhere. Or I just love, just observing or just sitting in a coffee house or having, lunch with somebody. Or I just love being in other energies. I don't necessarily have to participate. I can just be there and, and share in the energy of wherever it is I'm going. In fact, tonight I'm probably going to be dropping off a couple of donations at one of the sober houses. And then I'm going to probably head over to Brothers Lounge, which is one of my favorite patios, by the way. And tonight is, jam night, which is a wonderful time to just connect with my, music. Okay, musical family, the musicians, all the people I know. These are people Jared came up with. And so it's just a beautiful place where music is important and the people are nice. And it's just a place where you can just sit and be. There's not a lot of those places out there, guys, just so you know. This is why I have the village. So that's why I have public events and I have open houses and I have groups that meet because it gives us a space to just be that's non-threatening, that's peaceful, that's, just welcoming, and there's just not a lot of those places around. But this shared energy is powerful. In fact, most people, when they come and they're in I don't want to say in my presence, okay, but when they're in my energy, okay, my personal energy, they just instantly feel better. They feel seen. They feel heard. They feel like they connected on a deeper level because I'm very present when I'm with people. I don't get distracted, when they're talking. And so it's really, I'm much more mindful about being present in those moments, and so they feel satisfied. They come away feeling like they got a little recharge, that somebody noticed them or listened to their story. And I'm cool with that. I'm always doing the talking, so it's always nice. Excuse me, when I get a chance to just be the listener too. And I listen in sessions as well, but in a social setting, I'm just one of those bright lights. People find me. Even if I'm sitting there by myself, okay, I am not alone for long. So if you ask, like, my bestie, Becca, or anybody who's ever been out with me in public, my sister, this happens all the time, and Jared too, is that people recognize that you're approachable, that they like your energy, so they want to They want to meet you or say something to you. And yeah, so just sitting quietly for me in that energy just makes people feel like I'm approachable, you know? So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't like people." Or all these energies overwhelm me. Well, we've all been kind of it's kind of like wearing a coat all the time, and then you take the coat off and you feel exposed, okay? So that's kind of how we're feeling out here. And with all the bullshit that they've been pushing out on social media about bad people out here, trust me, guys, there are more neutral and nice people out here than there are bad people, okay? And again, they just want attention or power or energy, and I'm not one of those people who are going to give it to them, unless it's, you bring it into my space and I feel like I have to defend, but that's very rare, okay? And so this illusionary fear that has been created is really just trying to keep us divided, because when we get together, we start to have conversations, okay? And, it's where we get to talk about things, that, and again, I have no taboo topics, okay? We could talk about absolutely anything, and I'm not going to react, okay? It's probably not the worst thing I've ever heard. And, and again, I've been around the block, so, I'm very approachable that way. So you're not going to get judged, and people feel that right away, is that, they're like, "Oh, she's safe, she's somebody I can share things with. It's not going to, give you the stink eye or go, like I'm shocked." Guys, okay, the work I've done, I've seen and probably heard it all, okay? So, or done it for myself, So I don't want you guys afraid, because that's the reciprocality of the universe. You can't sit on your couch and wait for these things to come to you like the pizza guy, okay? They're not going to ding dong your doorbell and go, "Hi, I have an opportunity for you." It's through these random, and they're not random, encounters that we have out here in the world that taking you into a place that you've not seen before, or meeting people that you normally wouldn't meet. And I'm like the best wingman ever, okay? So when you're with me, I'll introduce you to other people, okay? And that's what we do for one another. As I go, "Oh, this is so-and-so, and, this is how I know them, and so Sue, meet Joe." And, and that's what we do. I connect people to each other and other things. So, again, guys, energy's a reciprocal thing, okay? It's unconditional. It flows, and when we set up those insecurities and those blocks, I have to tell you, insecurity is one of the most dangerous things, because it can also be weaponized, okay? There are some people who are so deeply insecure that they become predatory, okay? Insecurity makes it about you all the time, okay? And it can create demons where there aren't any. I mean, I've known people where somebody looks at them, okay? In fact, somebody said that to me one day. "What are you looking at?" I said, "I just want to tell you how beautiful I think your hair is," or "You have such a lovely energy." People are so defensive because their insecurity, makes it about them all the time, And I've done that, okay? I've been in a place where I'd be like, "What are you looking at?" And, but that was, back in a place where I wasn't healthy, I wasn't, confident, and it takes effort and practice. So it takes practice to be out here in these, in the world, but it's not as scary as you think it is. I have people that are afraid to leave their neighborhood. They're afraid, in fact, yeah, it's just funny. I've got 1,000 stories about that. But so when we step into, when insecurity is running the show, it makes you think everyone's looking at you, or somebody's laughing and they're laughing at you, and it can create demons where there are none. It was just innocent stuff going on, and you made it about you, okay? And then I've seen people retaliate with that, where they get aggressive, because they misread something, or they misunderstood something, or they ran it through this filter, and they become predatory. I have seen people do that, okay? In fact, most people who are intensely insecure, it shows up as arrogance. It shows up as, putting up the Billy Badass thing, making it, and it can be dangerous, guys. So there's varying degrees of that. But the best way to combat that is being visible. being out here together, being with each other. Because, I'm a party by myself. I'm a party of one, okay? But when we're together, then there's two of us. And then when there's more of us, there's more of us. And we're yucking it up, and we're not taking ourselves seriously, and we're just enjoying the energy of sharing conversation, sharing music, sharing, spiritual insight. That's why I love my events. It's not just about me doing things, performing for you. I get just as much back as you do with what I'm doing for you, that it comes back to me. It inspires me. So when you guys show up and you guys participate or you guys do that, it makes me feel good, because again, I'm always, performing or sharing wisdom or insight. And this is guys, I'm sitting in my car, in my parking lot, alone, okay, having this beautiful conversation. I would much rather have an interactive energy conversation with you guys here in the room with me, And so again, stay tuned, get some insight, call me for a session. Just sitting in someone else's energy, sitting in my energy for an hour is really fun because there's no negativity. It's all just peace. I work for that. Okay, it takes peace takes effort, guys. Okay, and when people are, living in chaos or they're creating chaos, they don't even know they're creating chaos. Their energy is just like all over the place. That when you come into that peaceful setting, it's really disarming. It's really a wonderful thing. So even if you're chaotic, but when you walk in the door, you get peaceful pretty quick. And I'll say to you, okay, let's take a cleansing breath. Let's take a grounding breath because you just came off the highway. All right, let's give you a little something to drink and let's breathe, okay? So let's breathe. Breathe in peace. Blow out fear and doubt. And that's grounding, So we can change the energy. When our energy shows up, it nullifies negative energy, okay? Guys, I show up and it changes things, okay? And I don't necessarily mean to do that, okay? But when we operate at a higher vibration, it sheds light on the negativity, and it can't exist. Okay, I've had people go full-blown psycho, and I just stand there and go, are you all right? Like, who did this to you? Like, can I help? And they don't know what to do with that, okay? And it just completely diffuses it. I'm a mediator, okay? I don't purposely insert myself in things unless it's absolutely necessary. But again, when my energy shows up, it changes the room. It changes the room, okay? So imagine if you, me, Carol, Mary Jo, and Denise all showed up at the same place. That's an energy, okay? No, again, it vibrates high and fast. Those lower energies they're like pull you down, And so, so when you get together with those kinds of like-minded people, it just radiates. It radiates to everyone around you. Everybody wants to be part of your table. Everybody wants to be part of the fun, And so we all have an opportunity to go out and do that, okay? So don't be afraid. There's very little to be afraid of out here. And I have to tell you, when you're afraid and you're hesitant, okay, that calls in the people who know you're afraid, okay? So when you raise your vibration, people don't approach you because you're not going to roll over, okay? So that sends an energy, okay? When people are insecure and they're acting like a scared little rabbit, okay, that's a sign that calls in the predators, but when you're confident and you know where you're at and you trust yourself and you trust, what's going on, that radiates as well. And that means I'm going to be a challenge. And those people, bullies don't want a challenge, guys. They want somebody who's going to roll over, okay? And trust me, I've met a lot of bullies in my lifetime, okay? And they don't want a challenge. They don't want somebody who's smart. They don't want somebody who is going to laugh at them, okay? The best way to diffuse that is laughter, honestly. Or just going, really? Really? I mean, some people are so full of their own bullshit. It's hilarious. And you just look at them like, are you serious right now? And again, you can there's ways to diffuse that. And again, I'm not going to give that energy. I don't got no time for it. So again, let's collect, let's get part of that reciprocal flow of the universe. Let's show up. Because again, I was having this conversation this morning with a musician friend of mine who was very uninspired because people weren't coming to the gigs, and Jared and I used to call that the asshole tour. Okay, where you got two guys on a bar stool with their asses facing you and you're playing to their ass crack. Okay, we've done gigs like that. Okay, and so the musician gets just as much from the audience. And so it's this beautiful flow of energy. They're inspired and playing, using their talent, and that's making you feel something and resonate. And so when you clap or you dance or you get engaged, it creates this circle of energy that just permeates the entire room. Okay? So that's why creative people, we need you. Okay? I need you as much as you need me, because otherwise, I feel like I'm pissing in the wind, or I'm just talking to nothing, And when it's in a group, it's so much better, because then we're feeding, the energy is flowing from me to you and back to me again. Same thing with artists. Same thing with musicians. Anybody who's creative. Even when we're in our jobs, guys, we want that reciprocal flow that comes with giving and receiving. And we have to learn how to receive as well. Everybody wants to be felt and heard and valued. And that's what I had tonight. So I wanted to talk about energy. And yes, energy is a thing. It radiates from everything. The most renewable source of energy is nature. So having events outside, I love doing things outside. Mother Nature just exists on reciprocality. You don't see the animals fretting over whether they got a nut or not, or, they're not hoarding like people do, and so again, when we have our hands open, it's, not only so that we can give, but it's also to receive, that we put our hands out to each other, let's share some energy. I'm all about it, let's do it. So anyway, yes, it can be challenging, but the minute you show up, everything changes. And that's the beautiful part about it, So anyway, let's see who's here tonight. I mentioned a couple of you already. Well, oh my God, Karen Hansen, how are you? Oh my God, girl. I miss you so much. Hey, Liz, how you doing? Nicole. Hey, Kayla. Diane. Kelly. Oh, Kelly's on here. Hi, Carol. And hey, Katie. It's so good to see you guys and hear you guys. Yeah, guys, if you've never seen me in person, it's a lot of fun, okay? So I have to tell you a funny story. I need a sip of my beverage. So one day I was touring a prison reentry facility, okay? And so when you go into the areas where they sleep, and their little quads and pods and stuff, they always announce that women are on the floor. And I was happening to tour the men's facility. And so they announced women on the floor. Okay, so everybody, make sure they're dressed and stuff. Anyway, and so as the person's taking us on this tour through their private areas, this man was in there. And he looked at me and he goes, damn, girl, you got a hell of an energy. He goes, you must be somebody important. I said, honey, we're all important, okay? And because I just walk with purpose, and I stand in my energy, And he was a huge energy too. But again, guys, we can use our energy for good or not good, just is how you use it. It's a double-edged sword, okay? And so some people have learned to use their energy to defend, or to protect themselves, or to stop bad things from happening, and so they puff themselves up so that people will be afraid of them. And that was so funny. It made me laugh out loud, because that's not the first time I've heard that, okay? And so that man was very adept, and a lot of people who've experienced trauma, okay, are very, very empathic, okay? In fact, I can read a room faster than most people. Okay, I can read a room. I can tell you where the exits are. I know who the good guy is, the bad guy, who to watch out for. And I can do all that within like the minute of walking in a room. Okay, that's pattern recognition. It's a lot of things. And that's what a lot of people do. And so they're not trusting of other people. Okay, and I know that we've all had things happen. Okay, but all of my experiences have made me, they weren't to tear me down. It was to make me great. You know, and it's how I connect and understand other people, because if I'd never experienced that, then how would I ever understand you and what you're feeling and what you need, right? So, but you have to come to terms with your own stuff, and this is what I teach, okay? And so it's kind of like leadership camp is what I call it, you know, spiritual leadership camp. But again, you know, so our energy, we can use it. It's how you use it, okay? You can use it to harm and destroy, or you can use it to create and inspire. You know, and so, and it's a double-edged sword. Okay, so when I'm not in a good place or low, I do not take my energy out there, because I will be low and noticing the lower energies before the light. Whereas when I'm full and rested and go out here, I don't notice half the negative stuff going on. Okay, unless it's in my space, you know. So that's the power of energy. And people misuse that and misunderstand it. But the energy of the universe is always giving. Mother Nature's always recycling energy, always giving. You know, there's an indigenous saying where, you know, the sun shines on everyone. It doesn't say, are you good or are you bad? It shines on all of us, okay? And so 90% of the things that people have experienced that create behavior is because of mistreatment or neglect. You know, for some people, it's irreparable. Okay, but for most people, you know, we have to learn to build trust, faith, trust in ourselves, trust in other people, trust in something bigger than us is loving us and guiding us. And that, guys, takes practice. You got to reach for that, you know? So that's why coming together, we inspire each other. You know, you inspire me as much as I inspire you. So thank you for coming on here and taking time and space with me tonight. I know it's what we got right now, but it's not the best way to do it. I love it when we're together, in the room together, you know, and we can feel each other's energies, you know. And again, we're a blast when we all get together, okay, because, you know, nothing's better than being able to laugh at yourself, you know, and laugh at my crazy antics, okay. And again, it gives people hope. Okay, none of us are perfect, guys. We all put on our pants one leg at a time. Some people don't put the pants on at all. Okay, there's that too. But anyway, I'm just so grateful for all of you following me. You know, if you guys get anything out of these things, just go on my Venmo and throw me a couple bucks. Because like I said, right now I'm going to go do some outreach. And you know, some of the best outreach I've ever done is in bars, okay? I mean, I meet people where they're at, and, you know, we have convos. You know, you never know where I'm going to show up. Another thing I want to let you know is I have a session special right now. It's $50 for an hour. And they're gifts. I can do it a gift certificate, or you can just call me and schedule. But it's $50 for a virtual session, and it's $60 instead of $80 for an in-person session. So not only do you get the benefit of your message, we all get to sit in our energies together, and you get a hug, and they give you snacks. You know, it's always a good time, you know. And I need, like I said, I need you as much as you need me. And we need these safe places, and I am the safe place, you know, whether I'm in the building or I'm out here in the world, that I'm, you know, sharing my energy. And it attracts all the right people. Very rarely does it attract the wrong people, okay? Because then they're going to find out, you know, is it Marianne or is it Mercedes, okay? We don't bring her out very often, no need. But that's what I'm telling you guys. You know, you're preempting things that don't exist. Fear creates demons where there aren't any, you know? And once you're out here, you're like, well, that was fun. These people are nice. You know, I had a cool interaction. I had a God moment, okay? I'm going to have a God moment tonight because I showed up. The universe keeps saying, Marianne, go to Brothers, Marianne, go to Brothers. Not because I need to go hang out at the bar, but this is where I spent most of my life with Jared when he was coming up in the music scene, you know? And it's a safe, nice place where there's nice people and it's very diverse. And it's all where all these professional musicians get together and just jam. It's so much fun. And they rotate up there. It's just such a good time. But anyway, so again, I post these things when I can, but I'm also very spontaneous. So I'm waiting for the God moment. I'll check back with you later and tell you what happened, you know? So I'm stopping at one of the sober houses, and there's always hugs to go around and saying hi to everybody. And then I'm going to move on. So that's what I got tonight. So book some time with me, guys. Nothing's better than yucking it up with your ancestors and relatives on the other side. And it's not just that. It's helping you understand how to process grief, giving you tools of understanding so that you don't feel like you're winging it. You know, nobody taught us how to be in relationships. Nobody taught us how to process what we're feeling. Nobody taught us how to communicate clearly. And this is why relationships fail. I teach an entire class on that called Defining Our Relationships. You know, we don't choose well. You know, we're like, well, you're cute, I'm cute. You know, you got this, I got that. Let's get married or let's move in. Okay, we don't interview well. And again, we got to start with ourselves, you know, and be self-reliant and be emotionally accountable and, you know, learn how to communicate. And those are the things that build healthy relationships, you know. So we can build trusting, loving relationships, not only with ourselves, but with the divine, you know, and with each other, you know. So let's do it. I'm excited. So thanks for joining me tonight. It was really great seeing you guys. I see you, but you know, you see me, but I don't see you. But I know you're out there. I see Carol's little picture. I see Katie's little picture. I see Kimmy's little picture. And yeah, guys, yeah, don't be afraid. Please. Please. I got no time for that. Monkey says, we got no time for that. Let's do it. That monkey's been in like 5 car accidents with me. Oh my God. None of which were my fault, by the way. Okay? That's a hell of a God moment right there. I hit a deer. Then a teenager hit my car. I mean, really. I've had a lot of things go on. But we survived, and I'm still here, and I got a story to tell. That's how I look at experiences, guys. Once we're through it, we're like, high five, nicely done. Man, I survived that. You know, now we got a story to tell. You know, I got thousands and thousands of stories I could tell. Anyway, I do. Once in a while. They pop up when it's necessary. But, yeah, don't be afraid of each other, guys. There's way more nice people who are just scared. They're scared of each other. Okay? And again, you got to turn your energy up. We got to fill that up. It takes effort to stay bright and light, you know? Because otherwise, then you can fall prey. If you're out there scared and insecure, you know, that's like asking the wolf to come eat you, okay? And so, again, we gotta kind of fake it till we make it a little bit sometimes. And that's where you hang out with other people who inspire you to be confident, and inspire you to step through your comfort zone. You know, I don't even have a comfort zone, okay? I don't have I have very few discomfort zones. But, again, guys, this life is it's a one-tank trip, okay? I don't want to waste time on waiting for people, waiting for the right time, waiting for the right stuff. The moment is now. The moment's now. So let's grab it and let's go, okay? So anyway, I'm gonna this is my new my CD. Everybody, let's get into it. Get started. That's what I'm talking about. All right, kids. I'll see you on the flip side. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. So get in touch and let me know what I can do for you. You guys have a wonderful evening. I love you all. Mwah! See you then.